Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're stepping into a whole other reality, really. We're diving deep into Gabriel García Márquez's incredible work, 100 Years of Solitude. And it's more than just a novel, isn't it? It feels like a whole universe. It weaves together myth, politics, family, philosophy, all into this really haunting, unforgettable story.
It really does. A landmark book. Published back in 1967, originally Cien Años de Soledad, of course, and it sits right at the heart of magical realism. It's an epic family saga and, arguably the peak of Latin American fiction.
Absolutely.
What makes it so stunning and maybe a bit disorienting at first is how Márquez just blends the magical and, the everyday so seamlessly. It really makes you question what's real.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive. To unpack the big ideas, the most important nuggets from this, let's face it, complex masterpiece. We want to get into the setting, Macondo. The sprawling Buendía family saga, those incredible, sometimes disturbing, magical, realist moments, the deep themes running through it. And the style itself, that unique style that makes it maybe challenging, but so rewarding.
A rewarding challenge, definitely.
Okay, so much of the book's power comes from its setting. Let's start there. Macondo. Can you sort of paint a picture of this place for us? How does it shape everything?
Right. Macondo. It's not just scenery, it's practically a character itself. It's this fictional town founded by José Arcadio Buendía and Ursula Iguarán, deep in the Colombian jungle.
Way out there.
Yeah, it starts off completely isolated, almost a utopia, cut off from everything. But over the generations, it gets dragged into the currents of history, modernization, civil war, politics.
The outside world crashes in.
Exactly. And its whole arc, its rise and fall, it mirrors, you could say almost allegorically, the historical path of Latin America itself. It's like a microcosm of the continent's own story.
Okay, and at the very heart of Macondo and the novel is the Buendía family. 7 generations. Their lives are just completely tangled up with the fate of the town.
Inextricably linked. Yeah.
And what's so fascinating, maybe haunting is the right word, is how their fates seem to echo. There's this powerful sense of repetition.
Oh, definitely. The core themes that kind of haunt the family are love, certainly, but also incest, memory, this profound solitude, and this inescapable repetition of history. It's cyclical.
Let's talk about some key figures. José Arcadio Buendía, the founder. He starts as this visionary, but then...
Right, the patriarch. Obsessed with knowledge, with alchemy, science. But it drives him mad in the end. He literally gets tied to a chestnut tree in the yard. That image is unforgettable. He sets a kind of pattern of intense passion leading to isolation.
And then there's Ursula Iguarán, his wife, the matriarch.
Ursula. She's the anchor, or tries to be. Lives over a century, this incredibly strong figure, desperately trying to keep the family grounded, trying to prevent the incestuous relationships she fears will lead to a child with a pig's tail. That's her great terror.
But even she can't stop the cycle, can she?
No. Despite all her strength, she watches her descendants fall into the same traps, the same patterns. It's this tragic struggle, between her efforts and this seemingly predetermined family fate.
And their son, Colonel Aureliano Buendía, such a major figure.
Huge. He fights in 32 civil wars, rises up again and again, a man of action, a revolutionary figure. But what does it all amount to in the end?
Nothing, really. He ends up back home making tiny little goldfish in his workshop, lost in this bitter solitude, all that effort, all that war, and it seems to make no real difference.
It's a powerful commentary, isn't it, on the futility, perhaps, of conflict in the face of these deeper cycles, the kind of despair that resonates with Latin American history, maybe.
And his sister, Amaranta, she embodies a different kind of solitude.
Yes, Amaranta. She rejects love, or maybe is incapable of it, lives in this state of self-imposed bitterness and suffering, wearing black, perpetually mourning, or perhaps just waiting. She dies while sewing her own shroud. Her life is another form of isolation, chosen or fated, it's hard to say.
And this repetition, it's even in the names, right? The Arcadios, the Aurelianos, over and over.
Exactly. That constant reuse of names, José Arcadio, Aureliano, it really hammers home that theme of cyclical history. It's like they're trapped, repeating the mistakes, the obsessions, the fates of their ancestors.
It makes you wonder if they ever had a chance to break free.
That's the big question the book leaves you with. Then you have figures like Fernanda del Carpio, who comes in later.
Right, she marries into the family. Very different background.
Very. She's from the Highlands, conservative, religious, quite snobbish. She tries to impose these old aristocratic values, this rigid order onto the Buendía chaos. But in a way, she represents a kind of decay herself, a tradition that's stifling and ultimately contributes to the family's disintegration.
And it all spirals towards the end with the last Aureliano.
Yes, the very last of the line. He's the one who finally deciphers the parchments left by the gypsy Melquiades generations earlier.
And what does he find?
He finds the entire family history, their whole destiny was already written down. He reads it as it's happening, basically. He discovers their absolute doom was foretold from the start. And as he finishes reading, the prophecy completes itself, he dies, and a great windstorm wipes Macondo completely off the face of the earth.
Wow. Just gone.
Utterly erased, a devastating but somehow inevitable ending.
One of the things people always talk about is the magical realism, how Marquez mixes the everyday with the absolutely impossible. Things like a plague of insomnia where people forget everything. How does he make that feel so normal within the story?
Well, that's the genius of it, isn't it? He presents these extraordinary events like the insomnia plague you mentioned with this completely matter-of-fact tone. The characters react, or rather don't react with shock, in a way that makes us, the readers, accept it as part of their reality.
So it's less about explaining the magic and more about how it's integrated into their lives.
Exactly. It's not fantasy for escapism. It's more like a lens on their reality, reflecting perhaps how myth, history, trauma, how these things become part of the fabric of everyday life in certain cultures or contexts. They cease to be extraordinary because they're just there.
That insomnia plague is a great example.
Yeah.
Losing not just sleep, but memory itself. Forgetting the names of things, their uses.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it works on a literal level, but also, as this powerful metaphor for collective amnesia. What happens when a society forgets its past? It's a chilling question.
And then there's Remedios the Beauty.
Remedios the Beauty, who just ascends into heaven one afternoon while folding laundry.
Just floats away.
Floats away with the bedsheets. And it's described so calmly, almost mundanely. Or the ghosts. Ghosts are just part of the household, talking with the living like it's no big deal.
It's natural for them.
Completely. And of course, the ultimate prophecy fulfillment. The baby born with the pig's tail, the very thing Ursula feared for over a century. It happens. It ties directly back to that sense of inescapable fate, the family curse made real. The supernatural is their normal.
So, okay, beyond the incredible story and characters, what are the big takeaways? What are the major themes Marquez is exploring here for us?
Well, probably the most dominant theme is solitude. And it's not just characters feeling lonely. It's presented almost as this hereditary condition, a fundamental aspect of the Buendía character, maybe their curse.
The family curse of isolation.
Sort of, yeah. It fuels their inability to truly connect, to learn from the past. It leads to disastrous romances, and ultimately contributes to Macondo's silent end. It's presented as something deeply destructive, not just sad, an active force of unraveling.
And tied into that is the idea we touched on. History repeats itself.
Absolutely. The whole structure of the novel, the repeated names, the similar life patterns, it all points to the cyclical view of history. Progress seems elusive. Generations seem trapped, replaying the same triumphs and, more often, the same failures. It resonates deeply with interpretations of Latin American history, where revolutions sometimes seem to change very little underneath.
Which leads straight into fate versus free will, doesn't it?
It really does. For all their striving, their passions, their choices, do the Buendias ever really escape the destiny written for them in Melquiades' scrolls? The novel suggests probably not, that their lives were predetermined. It raises huge questions about agency, about whether we can ever truly write our own story.
And memory and forgetfulness is huge, too. You mentioned the insomnia plague.
Right, that's the most literal example, but the theme runs deeper. The loss of history, the fading of traditions, even language seems under threat at times. The book strongly suggests that forgetting the past personally or collectively is incredibly dangerous. It leads towards destruction.
Okay, and then there's the arrival of outsiders, particularly the American Banana Company. This brings in the theme of colonialism and progress, right?
Yes, and it's handled in a way that reflects historical realities. The arrival of the Banana Company doesn't bring prosperity for everyone. It brings exploitation of workers, culminates in a brutal massacre, which is then officially denied, erased from memory.
Covered up.
Exactly. And ultimately, this Progress contributes to Macondo's decay and eventual disappearance. Now, it's important to say, we're just describing how the book portrays this, reflecting historical events and criticisms of foreign intervention and exploitation in Latin America during that era. It's a core part of the novel's critique.
Understood. So how did Marquez actually pull all this off? What about his writing style makes this dense, complex story work so powerfully?
Well, the style is incredibly distinctive. He uses this very dense, almost poetic prose. The sentences can be incredibly long, winding, full of clauses, almost like he's trying to capture the flow of thought or maybe oral storytelling.
Yeah, you get lost in them sometimes.
You do. And famously, he uses very few quotation marks for dialogue. It just blends into the main narration. This creates a kind of seamless, almost mythical flow, like one continuous voice telling the whole epic.
And the timeline isn't exactly straightforward?
No, it jumps around. It's nonlinear.
Yeah.
Which can be confusing at first, but it perfectly mirrors that theme of cyclical time, of history repeating. And it's all told in this third-person omniscient voice. The narrator knows everything, past, present, future, inner thoughts. It gives this godlike perspective on Macondo and the Buendias.
And it's packed with symbols and allegory.
Oh, absolutely. Rich symbolism, allegory, myth. The descriptions are so vivid, so sensory. He makes the impossible seem completely tangible through the sheer power of the language. It really is like a kind of linguistic magic.
So if someone is thinking about tackling this book for the first time or maybe going back to it, what should they know? What are the real strengths and maybe the challenges?
The strengths are just immense. I mean, the storytelling is incredibly immersive. You really feel like you're in Macondo. The symbolism is so rich, you can reread it and find new layers every time. Mm-hmm. It's bold, experimental literature, playing with time, narrative voice, and it has this profound emotional and political weight that just sticks with you. It makes you think about history, destiny, memory, the big stuff.
But it's not exactly a beach read.
No, definitely not. Let's be honest, there are challenges. That huge cast of characters with very similar repeating names, that can get confusing. You definitely might need a family tree nearby.
Good tip.
Yeah. And the themes are heavy solitude, fate, violence, decay. Plus, that dense poetic style we talked about, it requires concentration. It demands patience and focus to really sink in.
But you'd say those challenges are part of what makes it unique.
Absolutely. They're not reasons not to read it. They're part of the experience. It's a book that asks something of you, but the reward is just immense. It's a journey.
A journey into a whole cosmos, like we said at the start.
Exactly that. 100 Years of Solitude isn't just a novel. It's this self-contained universe where the magical and the real live side by side perfectly. It's a monumental achievement in literature. Truly a must-read if you're interested in, well, the human condition, Latin American history, or just the incredible power of storytelling itself.
So a final thought to leave you with. Considering how trapped the Buendias were by their fate, by that pre-written history, what does it really take, or what does it even mean to try and break free from the stories that seem already written for us? Something to think about until our next deep dive.